Hi everyone, Gruntle here, and this is my guide to legendary and unique weapons in Borderlands the pre-sequel. This episode we're looking at the alternating Vandergraffen, which is a unique laser manufactured by Tediore. And this will be a guaranteed drop from Deadlift, who is pretty much the first boss that you meet in the normal storyline of the campaign for Borderlands the pre-sequel. So this is a great weapon to be picking up at that time, especially your first time through, because it is pretty cool. It's one of your first introductions to lasers in the game, and it's not a bad weapon, I think. So if we look up close here, it's always in shock vision and it always looks like this with the skin. So it's got the lightning bolts in it, it's a bit blue and it is a bit shiny as well. You can see that when I move it around, it's glinting and shining and stuff. And the name Vandergraffen is a reference to, and also the red text and the alternating bit, they're all references to a guy called Robert Vandergraff, who is a dude that made the Vandergraff generator, which basically is a generator that generates static electricity. And the alternating is a reference to the AC current that it produces. I'm a fan of the flow, it's the flow, the current again, and the fact that it's a shock weapon is another reference. So, onto the parts of this weapon. It's always going to spawn with this barrel. It's always going to be a Molowan looking barrel, so it will be a beam rather than a splitter, and it will have differing grip, stock and sight. I've got it here with the Tediore grip for the faster reloads, the dial stock, and that's going to give me recoil reduction and recoil recovery, and then it's also the Tediore sight, just because the sight doesn't really matter, it's just aesthetics, so I put a Tediore one on there. With the stocks, another good stock with this would be the Hyperion stock, which has increased accuracy and faster recoil recovery, or even the Molowan stock with the increased accuracy, but Tediore stock is going to be the worst version of that. And with the grips, this is pretty much the only grip that you'll want, because the reload is a useful thing with Tediore weapons. So yes, let's compare it here to a similarly parted purple Tediore weapon. It's also a beam because of the Molowan barrel, and you can see that it has slightly reduced damage, accuracy, and reload speed is slightly higher. However, the electrocute chance is a bit higher on the Vandergraffen, which is a good thing, and so you're going to get enemies electrocuted a bunch more, hopefully. But it's fairly similar to this purple version. So basically, it's just a very good Tediore, very rare kind of Tediore weapon, but as a guaranteed drop. So that's great. And I'll show you what it looks like firing here. So it's going to have that Molowan looking beam of shock damage, and that's going to damage this guy with shock. It's going to have a lot of recoil, which is why the dial stock is going to be a good thing, because the Molowan beam has all this recoil, and so the recoil reduction and faster recoil recovery are definitely helpful. And even then it's still quite hard to hit things properly, but yeah. And you would have seen just before that the reload of this gun does damage, and that's because it's a Tediore. So basically you can throw it out, if I don't hit a guy, and if I get it in there, you can see that it will constantly damage the enemies around it until it explodes. Or if it hits a guy, it will explode and do more shock damage on that person. So the way you want to be using this gun is firing for a bit and then reloading. And it's not like a normal Molowan laser, which will have the increased percentage damage increase thing when you hold down the trigger, so there's no need to just keep holding down the trigger. Basically do a bit of damage, maybe get off their shield or something with the laser, and then throw it out so you can get the big damage on them if it hits them. Bang. See how there was the K there? Big damage. 13 something or other. Lots of damage. So yes, that is the way I would recommend you use this weapon. Now, the only other thing I need to say is what characters I reckon are good with this weapon. and I would say that the first and foremost best character would be Athena, as she has her Psionic Storm tree and her Maelstrom skill. You'll be getting Maelstrom stacks from the electrocute damage. However, Wilhelm will also be good as he has his laser buffs, and it's a pretty decent weapon for the time in the campaign that you get it. So I would recommend any character pick it up and use it for a bit, at least see if it's useful at the level that you're at, because being a guaranteed drop, it is useful in the campaign. And yeah, nothing else to say now, so we'll jump to the gameplay with Wilhelm, and I'll let you know what I'm thinking of the effectiveness of this weapon. So here we are in Overlook with Wilhelm and the Vandergraffen, and I'm going to clump up these enemies at the start here so that I can get the reload damage to shock more of them at once. It's kind of a useful technique to get everyone together, and yes, when you throw it out and it does the shock lightning stuff, it will hit multiple enemies at once, doing more damage overall, helping you out. Now, as it's a early game weapon, it's not incredibly amazing. It's only a blue level unique anyway, so I wasn't expecting it to be incredible, but it's definitely usable. And I think if you have the correct character, such as Athena and her Psionic Storm tree, it might be just that little bit more effective. But it's nothing amazing, but it's not a bad weapon. I definitely recommend you use it when you get it at the lower levels. Now, if you want to read more about this weapon, you can check the description below the like button. I've left a link to the wiki page. And if you'd like to see more of these weapon guides from me, please subscribe. It'll help me out a bunch, and you'll be able to see the next of the guides without doing the old YouTube search. So yes, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.